So today we're looking at 701 or 70I. I'm going to call him 701 for the rest of the video. What runes does this challenger Gragas in Korea bring to the support role when playing Gragas? Well, it's not too different than what you would see on other tanky engaged champions. First and foremost, his keystone rune he'll be bringing is Aftershock. As you know, Gragas' main ability, especially when you're support, is going to be your body slam. You want to lock people up, you'll more than likely be maxing that first. And because of that, Aftershock is a phenomenal rune to bring with you. I 100% agree with that. It's very similar like if you were playing an Alistar or a Rel. After you go in, you want to make sure that you take as little damage as possible. And Aftershock really enables you to do that. Moving on to his second line here, he also brings Font of Life. That is the rune that when you impair the movement ability of an enemy champion, that'll mark them for 4 seconds, and whoever else attacks them will gain a specific amount of health dependent on what your max HP is. Now, Gragas being a big tanky boy and also having a slow on his Q ability, that barrel that he rolls, and also that knock-up on his body slam is going to allow you to trigger Font of Life very often. And for your lane, and towards more for lane than anything, that's going to allow your carry to sustain a little bit better than if you did not bring that with you. Another option here that you could consider if you're in a very heavy push lane, something like Tristana as your partner, would be bringing Demolish. I believe about 40% of people bring Demolish instead of Font of Life on Gragas, unlike 701. And Demolish will allow you to, of course, take more turret plates, so that's always an option. Keep that in mind if you're trying out the Gragas support. Moving on here to our third line, we have him selecting Bone Plating as his rune of choice. We've went over this in some other videos in the past where we've talked about Rel support and her engage ability and how Bone Plating is by and far the best selection you can make here out of these 3. The only other option that might ever cross your mind is Second Wind if you're going up against a very heavy poke lane like Ezreal or Vel'Koz support, something like that. Finally, in the last page, or excuse me, the last line here on our green page, he's going to bring Unflinching. That is the rune that gives you 10 extra tenacity and 10 slow resist, and those values increase depending on how much missing health you have. Again, as an engaged support that really wants to get around, move around right, having Unflinching is a really good call here. I back up that as well. The only other option that you could potentially think about is maybe Overgrowth. Overgrowth is going to give you more health over time, right, as you stay in lane as that support. But obviously 701 is preferring this tenacity because more than likely you're not going to be building Mercury treads anymore in season 2021. You're going to be looking towards building cooldown reduction or ability haste, excuse me, boots going forward. So this will help kind of fill that gap where you're lacking tenacity in this season. His secondary page is going to be working on utility. Again, pretty reminiscent from what you see from other engaged supports. He's bringing Biscuit Delivery for some more sustain in lane. And then finally, as well, he's bringing Cosmic Insight. Summoner Spell and Item Ability Haste is going to be very strong, especially once we get deeper into the game and we see that 701 does build Zhonya's Hourglass. So having that additional item haste is going to let him go in more often and hopefully survive a few more scuffles than if he was to bring any other rune on Gragas. And then finally, for his adaptive page, as we talk about every time we analyze one of these top level player supports, right, we know that this page is going to be very heavily dependent on what your lane matchup is. And since he's against an 80 heavy lane in the bot lane, that's why he's bringing armored most of the time. Maybe like 70% of the time we're going to build armor for that adaptive resistance down there, just because more than anything you're going to be taking auto attack damage again, unless you're against a poke lane that's AP heavy. He does opt to get double adaptive force for AP as well. Gragas typically is known as kind of like a tanky burst mage, so having that additional 18 ability power early game will help you get some hopefully more favorable trades in your favor. And a lot of the time when you see an AP champion taking in the support role, they're always favor that because it's so hard for you to build AP quickly. It's nice to have that double adaptive room. Another page that people will typically look at for Gragas, and not one that I would suggest, is Comet page. It's not going to fit in your build if you're leveling your abilities like 701 is. He's maxing E first into Q. If you were to bring a Comet page, you more than likely would want to max Q first, then into E. And with Gragas's E ability or body slam being so important in the support role, I would say really kind of steer clear of this page, because this having Comet on is basically like saying I'm going to be playing a burst mage in the bot lane. And really, when you're playing Gragas support, like a lot of the top players that we've been seeing, you don't want to be this squishy, easy to kill champion that has no gold. Because Gragas has such great base health, great base ability, great base damage as well. This could maybe find your way if you're against a really squishy lane, maybe something like a Yuumi, right? But I really wouldn't look towards a Comet page basically ever as Gragas. I would really stick towards your Aftershock page, being that you can activate it so often, and you really do want to be going in as Gragas more than anything. And then finally, our last page here, if you are selecting this page and playing Gragas, you are not playing support Gragas. This is going to be focused on a jungle Gragas, potentially even a top lane Gragas, more than likely jungle. So if you're looking up different pages to play as Gragas and you find this one is one of the most top played, do not play this final page that's focusing on Predator, right? So just avoid the domination page if you're playing support Gragas. Really, again, more than anything, we want to stick towards our green page here. Finally, for level order, I did mention this briefly when we were going over the fact that he brings Aftershock, but the majority of support Gragases out there are maxing E first. Some of them maxing Q, again, dependent on whether you're building Comet. So 701 will go E first, as typical, right? And then he'll max Q second. A little strange because, again, as we talked about, you want to be this tanky force of a support, and W, as you level it up, will give you more base resistance. So I'm surprised to see him not leveling up W second. But he does opt for Q, again, noting that in his item build, he will be building more AP. He won't be going pure tank. So having that poke with that Q, and also getting some of that attack speed reduction from that can potentially help him against certain teams. And he does favor that more than anything else. And then again, the other option that you could potentially go if you were building a Comet page and wanted to do more damage, you start in Q and then moving into E second and then maxing W. Again, you'll typically see that more in like a mid lane or top lane Gragas, right? Maybe even jungle Gragas. So I would again steer clear of this skilling order if you were to play support Gragas, because again, most of those top level Gragases, especially in Challenger or Grandmaster and above moving into Challenger, are maxing E first, so they have that playmaking ability up more often and potentially that escape ability too with the body slam. So with all that knowledge, let's go hop in a game and see how 701 plays the Gragas support in a successful Challenger solo queue game in Korea. So moving into the game, we see that 701 has opted to go for a Relic Shield. Pretty solid. I've seen it both ways. I've seen Gragas supports in high level both build Spell Thief's Edge as well as build Relic Shield. He is against an Alistar lane and a Tristana lane, so that's going to be a very heavy engage lane. More than likely going to get poked more often than not. So Relic Shield is a pretty solid choice here. It'll make you just that tad bit more tanky. And also allow you to still get about the same amount of gold you would at the same rate as a Spell Thief's Edge would. You're only missing out on a little bit of that mana regeneration that Spell Thief's Edge would give you, and he does have biscuits, so that'll help. He got Sweeper early, not something I would really suggest for anywhere between like Platinum or below, unless you're very sure where somebody is going to ward. He did find that ward on the Wraiths for his jungler, so that was fruitful for him, phenomenal, right? But really, more than anything, towards these mid or lower tier level plays, I'm around Plat 1 right now. You really need that early vision to be careful. Maybe another reason that he got Sweeper first is because he's against an Udyr jungle, and Udyr does typically like to full clear, take a little bit longer to get to these ganking lanes, right? To ganking lanes, so it might be the fact that he saw that as well and was like, hey, I might as well just buy a Sweeper, because more than likely it'll be a long time before I need to actually have vision down here. Engages on the Tristana and then immediately gets knocked up by the enemy Alistar. And the Alistar ignites too. Not the best call, because they're more than likely not going to have enough damage to take out this Gragas early game. As you see, he's dropping some emotes right now. We got an emote player here. And for both of these lanes, level 2 is going to be the scariest moment. So he's doing a little bit of zoning right now. He needs to be somewhat careful, and he'll more than likely try to last hit these final 2 melee minions. That'll get them level 2 faster than their opponents, and there it is right now. And clearing out this ward, another great reason potentially why he brought the sweeper is to deny vision, as he apparently loves to play in these bushes and take bush control. That always puts pressure on the enemy bot lane. So more than likely, that could also be the reason why he brought that sweeper bottom as well. Putting on some good pressure. They're near turret, which is a little scary when you're playing against an alistar. You don't ever want to get pulled headbutted into the turret, regardless of what support you are. And I want to point out as well that 701, 70i early game took so much damage even with that ignite, but he's only used 1 health potion so far. And obviously the reason for that is that Gragas's passive of whenever he uses his ability, he heals X percentage of health, is clearly going to play well in this lane for him. Here comes that Udyr potentially. Alistar gets a headbutt pull, and here comes Tristana on 701 as well. He uses his W to reduce some of the damage he's taking. And thanks to that thanks for that counter game from that Nidalee, he's going to stay alive. He blocks the Malphite as soon as he comes in and gets his body slam off, and finally flashes away just to stay safe in case Udyr decided to turn back on him. But that's going to be an overall win for the bot lane there. He went really low and used his CHUG right at a perfect time to reduce the total amount of damage he's taking. And while the enemy team was focusing him incorrectly as the main target, he was able to survive that, not even need to flash until the way end there where he felt a little bit unsafe. So he's going to be happy, take away 2 assists, move back to base, and let's see what he purchases early. If you've seen some of our other videos, he's more than likely going to get, yes sir, boots early on. And that's not just like a Korean thing, right? Even in North America and EU West and really anywhere OCE, right? Many players are opting to build boots early. You can already see it on Malphite in the top lane. You'll see it on Nidalee in the jungle, even though she had a bunch of gold to spend as well. Boots are so important in Season 2021 because there's so much movement happening on the map, right? It's not that he's going to be able to move out of Alistar's headbutt pull range. It will help him kind of play around Alistar trying to go in on them, right? But more than anything, he's going to want that movement because it's so valuable, as so many early fights can happen in this game. Here's his bush control again, completely pushing Tristana out of lane as Alistar was attempting to go for something in the middle there. And now she's going to have to watch them farm. So good play by him. He's sitting on a trinket ward, which is eventually pinked by the Jinx down there. Jinx should have let him last hit that so he can get 10 extra gold. I'm going to pour support over here. Let me at least have my extra money. But here we go, playing a little bit more passive. He might be waiting for the Alistar to engage, knowing that after he blows his load, that he'll be easily able to counter gank. He has the level advantage here too, so I'm surprised he's not being a little bit more aggressive. But here comes a barrel, nice slow and an extra poke from the Jinx. They need to again be careful because at any moment if they step too close to that Alistar, you're just going to headbutt pull them. Gragas wants the headbutt pull to hit him. Here comes Nidalee for him in Tribush from the jungle. A great follow-up from Jinx with her W. Will have Alistar nowhere to go. Tries to pull them into the turret. A Nidalee heal and a Gragas passive will keep him basically at 3/4 health. So no harm, no foul. Phenomenal there. Nidalee doing a smart thing and playing around the lane that she knows doesn't have flash. And that was a pretty easy kill once we were able to run down that Alistar. Again, with more speed thanks to those early boots and those early kills we got earlier. Moving over to Dragon. Helping his jungler out. Infernal Dragon's going to do AoE damage, so it'd be nice if they would kind of either, move around it or play on either side of it. But they're able to take it. We finally got those gummies in the river as well to help him heal up. So now with his 80 carry back, I'm curious if he will just kind of hang out here and absorb any EXP that he can while Jinx is gone. It looks like mid lane is pretty pushed, so it's more than likely why he didn't opt to go for a roam. But if he did, he might have been able to help out with that poor Aurelia that just went down to Nocturne Ultimate and Malphite. Oh, and this is nice. Always do this if you can as support. He's holding the minion wave for Jinx, so when she gets back, that it doesn't just get completely fed into turret. And now you see that Jinx is benefiting from that. And also, something to note is anytime it looks like Gragas's or 701's chug is up, he's using that regardless if he's going to actually hit a minion with it or not. Again, that's going to proc his passive, right? And now where a bunch of minion damage took him down maybe about 200 health, he's right back up. Threatening, more than likely doesn't want to go in as the lane's going to push if they decide to do that, but Jinx is getting in some of her own poke. There's a nice W hit as well. And they had that big wave that they didn't want to give up, is more than likely why 701 was not deciding to go in there, because overall it looks like they have a lot more power than this enemy bot lane. So I'm surprised he's not being more aggressive. If I was playing, I would probably just be going in left and right, and maybe I need to learn some of that restriction as well that we see 701 have. They have no wards in the river. I'll be surprised if he backs here. They have no wards in the river, so you always have to factor that in also. The fact that if I'm going to make this play, I really have no idea where the Odir is on the enemy team because I have lacking wards. So I have no back out potential. Is he really going to back here? How much gold does he have? Has about 870 gold. He does go back and ends up finishing the boots. The ability haste boots, as we see so many people do. And now that his lane was pushed in bottom, you can do this at any level. Now that his lane was pushed in bottom, now he's going to look for a roam. Unfortunately, his mid lane just died again to the Nocturne and an Odir gank, but we do see Nidalee on the Rift Herald. No, he opts to go for some additional experience. That's fine. Hits level 6 maybe a little bit earlier than he would if he was to head to the bot lane. And now he's going to try to terrorize his Nocturne a little bit. Ooh. Ooh. Foolishly misses the barrel. That's going to be on a 1.5-minute cooldown, so that kind of sucks. Especially while he's going to walk into this Alistar. No wards here. Alistar's caught wind that his enemy support is missing. And Gragas knows, 701 knows that Alistar is here, so he's just going to proc that Relic Shield since he had 3 procs available. Wants to make sure it starts regenerating as fast as possible. Give it to the Aurelia and then walk out of there. But he sees Aurelia, catches out the Alistar, heads to middle, wants to really get off a body slam. It does get eaten up by the Nocturne, but that additional damage from him helps her take her down. And now he more than likely has body slam up pretty soon here. In 1 second, he does get it off, but now the enemies are coming in. Thank goodness he's able to survive that 1 turret shot. But he's going to get nothing more here. Aftershock definitely helped him a little bit there to make sure he didn't go down. But being in the right place at the right time, helping out his mid lane. Aurelia did, let's be honest, phenomenal work by locking up the Alistar before Gragas even had to get there, and he was able to stack or almost stack that CC. Unfortunately, Nocturne got in the way. But just him being there and offering that extra body and presence was great. Unfortunately, all that was happening, we just saw his Jinx got solo killed, which is the risk you take when you roam that often. That was a 1v1 though. It's not like Alistar engaged on the Jinx, so not particularly his fault, but of course that's always the risk you take, especially when your AD carries against someone like Tristana, who can very easily hop on you, get all her procs over E off and then hop again and potentially use her ult. So that was upsetting for sure, but overall they came out on top. Him being in the mid lane and helping his mid lane and jungler make that play overall netted more gold for his team. So phenomenal. Here he comes again to terrorize his Nocturne, but really nothing more going to happen here. He needs to be careful because we have Alistar, Udyr, and Malphite coming in. A barrel knocks away 2 members of the enemy team, and that low health Nocturne gets pushed into the teleport of Silas, who may eventually go down. And Gragas is so low, he may have to back out, but he gets another nice lockup on 2 additional champions, and it extends the kills for his team there to 3, and he trades his life for 3 kills, which is potentially a play that a lot of people wouldn't make. He was about, like, what, 300, 400 health when he decided to go back in, but he knew that his additional CC would help his team net those kills, and with this even Rift Herald knocking down mid lane now, that's completely worth. They're going to end up getting first turret thanks to that play also. There it goes. And he'll be happy in getting his Bandleglass Mare, which he'll eventually build into Imperial Mandate. Now, another, again, we mentioned in runes and leveling analysis and skill order analysis. Hold on. A nice Jinx locks up, then followed up by the body slam. This Tristana has to do all she can to try to kill the Jinx, but only getting her down to about 50 health. Another body slam locks up the Alistar, and he's just so far ahead. Notice that Alistar was level 5, thanks to a lot of those scuffles going the way of the red team. But back to item analysis. right, Gragas, or excuse me, 701 opts to go for Imperial Mandate over what some other Gragas supports prefer, which is going to be Locket of Iron Solari. 701 likes to play Gragas as kind of like this off-tank, a little bit of AP damage mixed into the tankiness, and Bandleglass Mirror plays well for Gragas also. You can get all of your Bandleglass procs on the enemy team if you were to, say, hit all 5 enemies with 1 barrel, thanks to that slow being applied with Gragas Barrel. Obviously, right, any movement impairing ability with Imperial Mandate is going to let those procs come up. So really great item, and then of course his body slam's going to count as well. Of course his ult's going to count as well. And Alistar getting caught out here again. They were going to go for Dragon. Jinx was potentially in trouble after killing that bottom turret. And great awareness by 701. He heads to the bot lane just to get some additional CC on that Alistar. And really, if that Alistar is not moving for more than, 1 second, if he gets locked up for more than 1 second, that Jinx is going to be able to tear right through him. She's about to get her mythic right now. Already has 5 kills after that last cow kill. And let's go back real quick, because what he could have done, what 701 could have done here is go, quote-unquote, help Nidalee with this dragon, but he knows that Nidalee is going to be completely okay. How much damage am I really going to do to it? What he opts to do instead is go into the enemy jungle, sweep for some additional wards, pop down a deep pink ward, and that's going to give him overall more value than what? Doing 600, maybe 800, 1,000 damage to the dragon, whereas Nidalee had no problem killing anyway. So definitely take note of that, right? Be aware of where we are in the state of the game. Does Nidalee need help? Is the blue team around the dragon? Maybe if those answers were yes, then yes. Sure, let's go help with the dragon. But since we already netted some kills, we pushed in the blue team, right? Nidalee's going to be a-okay with that dragon. Let's make sure we get some deeper coverage on it, just to be safe and potentially even net us kills later in the game. Following up the Aurelia on some CC on Udyr, of course, is going to give her the ability to finish that up. And now moving to the top lane to, again, land a body slam on Nocturne, who really had no ability to kill anybody there, but making some great plays and some great movement to make sure that his team is safe. Interesting that that turret looks like it's alive in top lane, but it's not. Now pushing bottom, he's sticking with his AD carry. He does have some charges on his wards, and I believe he'll want to pop a ward down here to his right to make sure he's safe. There goes one. Over the wall. Perfect. That'll cover his entrances, and if anybody tries to go from mid lane over to him, he makes sure let's go back real quick. Sorry, I was focusing on warding. He makes sure when they execute this dive that he attacks the Malphite first, and that's important if Malphite has ultimate. He does not want his Jinx to go down. Great ultimate to push him back to him before that Malphite's even able to get that knock up onto 701. His Jinx is so fed that she just demolishes him, annihilates him, ruins him. You pick. It's a choose your own adventure novel when it comes to this analysis. Now he's backing, throwing down some more emotes. 701 Korean Gragas thing to do. Decides to go assist his team instead, because he does see this kind of a miniature team fight happening here. But it looks like Jinx is going to be able to do most of the damage before she even needs the assistance. Double kill coming down. Such a strong champion right now, Jinx is. Especially if you get her ahead early. And with that, we're already going to see a surrender come out for blue team. So unfortunately, a little bit shorter, as everyone's going to slowly walk to base, I guess. A little bit shorter of a game than we would normally hope for when analyzing these support players. But what I think we really want to take home is the fact that even though Gragas has such a good ability to go in and create team fights, that we really saw more than anything restraint on 701's side, especially when he was again against a different engaged support in Alistar. Body slam can potentially stop those headbutts that come in, which we didn't see. And note that, of course, right, when you're an engaged support like this Gragas, one of your main things that is going to help you win games is roaming at appropriate times, like when your minions are pushed, like when your AD carry is back, etc. Right? And he did great with roaming, maybe not, being the one to create the first lockup or create the first stun, but being there, being a body, forcing his team to be ahead there by just being a more dominant force. And since his lane was winning, that was so easy for him. So I loved this analysis. Support Gragas is something we've been seeing come more and more into pro play, challenger play, high elo, and it's something I definitely want to try out going forward, knowing it can perform pretty well against some of the top support champions right now, like Rel and Alistar. So I hope this video was enlightening to y'all. If you did like it, please let me know below who you would like to see next or what you would like to see next. That of course helps me out. Give me a like, subscribe, etc., etc. You guys know I try not to say it because it's so obvious, but I appreciate you being here. I hope you're having a great day or night or whatever it is, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.